Why Perez Theophany was stopped by police in the first place is a big question people have been asking. Did ICE know about him being an accused child sex offender? We don't know. Another question is whether or not the arrests we have seen in recent days are violating civil rights. I want to bring Justin Hansford in on the conversation now. He's a civil rights attorney and a law professor at Howard University. Justin, good evening to you. Thank you for your time, sir. All you have to do is look at the comments section on any social media post showing an arrest happening in D.C. in the past week and a half. People are worried tonight that D.C. residents are being targeted simply because the color of the color of their skin, rather. Are there any legal grounds that people can stand on when they believe they are being racially profiled by law enforcement?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And the number one rule I always tell our communities is you have the right to remain silent until you have a lawyer present. You have the right to ask, am I free to go if stopped? And if the officer says no, you should ask, am I under arrest? And number three, if they ask to search you or your belongings, you should say, I don't consent to the search. Even if you are someone who is being targeted, and I can say I do believe that people who are being targeted right now for being Black, for being brown, for being part of our vibrant multi-ethnic community. And if you believe that, you're going to have to fight that in court. You're not going to be able to fight that battle on the scene. And the best way to do that is to make sure that you use your rights to remain silent, and then you gather evidence and be prepared to have your say when the time arrives.
Justin, is there anything that Mr. Perez Theophany could have done yesterday differently that would have changed the outcome? What we saw there, what millions of people saw in that video?
I think that right now what we're seeing is our city under siege. Law enforcement is being very aggressive right now. And when you're faced with that situation in the moment, I believe that the best thing to do is to stand to fight another day. And what he did in the situation is probably most that you could expect someone to do when they are being handcuffed. But I do believe that just like we saw activists and protesters arrested, Feeney was arrested from the coalition Free DC. We're seeing a lot of Washingtonians having to face this situation. Over 500 arrests have taken place, I believe, since this occupation. Yeah. And so it's going to be something that we're going to see over and over again. And I do think that people should be prepared to use their right to remain silent and live to fight another day.
So one of the fears that we have heard is that all of the arrests we've been seeing could cause people to have less trust in the police in their own communities. People may be victims of crimes or need help, but be afraid to call law enforcement because they're worried about their own legal status. What's your advice in that case?
Well, we've seen that lack of trust as a long-time pattern. Of course, we know what happened in 2020 after the killing of George Floyd. And for decades and even generations before that in African-American communities, we've seen that lack of trust being, in many cases, justified, right? So what I recommend people do in this situation is to continue to watch over their communities. I see people using their cameras to take footage of what's happening. I do believe that is another positive thing to do, because then if there is a violation of your rights, then you have some evidence.
Justin, let me ask you, because we have some video up here on the screen. I don't know if you can see it, but again, this is there have been several examples of this of delivery drivers being detained. To your knowledge, do these delivery drivers, like the gentleman here in this screen, do they have any specific protections if they are stopped on the job? And could the companies that they work for, like Uber Eats, for example, could they get involved in any way?
Their companies could be more involved in protecting them and giving them more information about the dangers and helping them to protect themselves. When you are stopped while driving police can ask to see your driver's license. Federal ICE law enforcement officers can ask to see your immigration papers. But if you're on foot, you don't have to show identification. So some of these basic rights are things that Uber should be making their employees aware of so that they can be safe in this moment. But I do think this is part of our culture. DoorDash delivery is part of our culture. And we want to make sure that we keep everybody in our community safe.
Before I let you go, you got to put yourself in the shoes of these family members, who may be unsure of where their loved ones have been taken after they're detained, after they're arrested. What support, what resources are out there for these families?
Well, in Washington, D.C., we have one of the best public defender services in the entire nation. That's something that we can be very proud of. I know many of these families may not be coming from wealth and may not have the financial resources to afford high-priced lawyers. But we do have communities that are coming together, and not only as in light of the public defender services, but also organizers and churches and coalitions of concerned citizens. You also can make a difference by being willing to speak out about what's happening in your community and helping those families and reaching out to those families and being a source of relief in this time for them.
All right. Civil rights attorney and Howard University law professor Justin Hansford, thank you so much for joining us tonight and offering your insight. And I'm sure this is not the last of everything that we're seeing out in D.C. these days. Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Thank you.